Warm welcome, everyone, to this Dynamic 365 Commerce Part 2 webinar hosted by Engage Group. And for those of you that does not know us, Engage Group is a niche player focused entirely on the Dynamic 365 stack, together with surrounding Azure-related workloads. We have a Nordic focus and helping our clients to go global with Dynamics 365. And with me today, I have Gustav Sundblad and Victor Larsson. I will hand over to Gustav in just a few minutes, and then he can present himself. And at the end, we will have a Q&A session where Victor, one of our specialists in commerce, will help out as well. In addition, this session is published as a LinkedIn Live event. We will also record the session and make it available on our YouTube channel. So make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn for more information. Great. So let's continue with next. So the agenda for today, we have 45 minutes scheduled. We'll start with a brief introduction to the Dynamics 365 headless commerce capabilities. Feel free to ask questions, write it in the chat window, and we'll ensure to go through it at the final point here. So after a brief introduction, I'll hand over to Gustav, and he has prepared some very exciting demo scenarios where you will see the headless commerce capability in live action here, together with some of the Power Platform capabilities that is also available from the stack. And yeah, with that said, I think let's dive into the topic here. So topic for today, Dynamics 365 headless capability. This is a standard slide from Microsoft, and I think it's the only one we're gonna showcase here today, but just a very brief introduction. So Dynamics 365 Commerce is one of the workload within the Dynamics 365 stack, and it's actually one of the most comprehensive commerce solution on the market, providing both B2B, B2C support together with a number of key components to manage both your traditional and emerging channels. So we have capabilities such as point of sales, storefront, and content management capabilities, including backend capabilities as part of the stack here. But focus here today will be on the headless commerce engine part. More specifically, how can we maintain a single source of truth, providing business logic and data from one source, and then exposing that data and logic across our various sales channels, providing a strong unified commerce case. So with that said, let's continue to next one. So as I mentioned, this is webinar number 2 in our commerce series. A couple of weeks ago, we had webinar 1, which focused on the core components available out of the box, being the back office component for managing all your data, such as channels, assortments, products, promotions, and so on. We also went through the CMS site builder and media library capabilities for creating rich visual representations on your storefront. We had a demo scenario highlighting the front-end e-commerce site capabilities, and then finally also how we can interact with other sales channels, such as the point of sales store commerce app in various omni-channel scenarios. So that was webinar 1, and looking forward or continuing with focus for today, webinar 2 is rather on the commerce scale unit and the headless commerce capabilities, Because typically what we see at our clients is that it's a big decision and typically not suitable to replace all your commerce capabilities at one time. You have made major investment in existing technologies. So you would rather see this as a journey where you replace specific components throughout time. However, you're still in need of a single source of truth, one system where you can configure your business logic and your data and then expose that across various applications, being product lifecycle management, product information system. You might have external content management system, external storefront, POS, and payment solution provider, as an example. And how can we still leverage the rich set of capabilities within Dynamics 365 Commerce to expose that data across our various application landscape components. So to demonstrate that, if we continue to the next slide, we have compiled a set of architecture scenarios which has been vetted by the Microsoft organization and where we know it has been implemented at various customers. So I'd like to just provide a quick walkthrough of a number of available options with the purpose to describe that it's not really a black and white decision, meaning that you need to incorporate all the Dynamics 365 Commerce capabilities at once. You could see it as a gradual journey where you establish certain key components and where you use the available APIs to make that data and logic available across your system landscape. So option one, pretty straightforward, and the option we discussed during the last webinar. So that's basically commerce all up, meaning we leverage all the built-in Dynamics 365 components, meaning the backend capability. We have the store front end, content management system for product enrichment, and then finally storefront as well. So that's typically in a scenario where you might start up a new brand, or you might want to do large changes to your system landscape and really going fully into the Dynamics 365 suite. So option number two is that you already have invested in a CMS, a third-party CMS system. So you use that system for product related, or I should say market and sales related enrichments of your products. So you add text, pictures, and various visualizations to your product that you publish to the web. So in that scenario, you use Dynamics to perhaps create the base product data, but then you feed that data to the third-party CMS system, where you do various kinds of sales and marketing related enrichment of the products that you then utilize on your storefront. So that is a supported option where we can utilize available APIs together with the headless commerce engine from Dynamics to realize that one. If we continue to option number three, then you have both a third-party storefront and a CMS capability. So in this option, you're still leveraging the business logic for Dynamics, meaning when you do the actual cart and checkout and managing account pages, you're actually querying Dynamics to get the correct pricing, the correct product description, and validating that product is available and so on. But from a end user perspective, you're still fully in control of the customer experience and the customer journey across your third-party storefront website. So still using the back-end mechanism, but utilizing your front-end capabilities from third-party tools. And then finally, if you have a complete set of third-party e-com components, meaning you have a commerce solution that is best of breed, you have a third-party CMS, and you have a third-party storefront capability, then you can still use the headless commerce APIs from Dynamics to just export data and import data back and forth. But important to understand with this fourth option is that in this option, you're just simply pushing data back and forth. You're not leveraging any business logic from Dynamics. So assuming you want to introduce a new capability, such as a new promotion mechanism, for example, or any campaign logic, then you actually need to introduce that both in Dynamics and in the e-com platform, and you need to test it. So you are, in fact, implementing a duplicate business logic. And this is something we see at a lot of our customers as well, but it's really something that provides challenges because it's hard to leverage new capabilities since it requires a lot of testing. So that's actually 4 options that provides. Hopefully, you'll see different kinds of opportunities, and also that it's not a black and white decision. You don't need to utilize all the Dynamics 365 capabilities at once. On the left side, you have more of a best of suite approach where you leverage built-in components, and on the far right side, option 4, it's more of a best of breed approach where you have dedicated software for each component. But I would say option 1, 2, and 3 is heavily leveraging logic and the headless commerce capabilities, while in option 4, less of the available capabilities are being utilized. So with that said, let's dive into a few of the demo examples here. And over to you, Gustav.
Thank you, Tobias. Thank you so much. As Tobias mentioned, I work at Engage as well as a technical architect. I've been working with AX and then retail for 13, 14 years now, I think. So I've had the fortune to see the product really evolve and become what it is today. So it's fun, and I'm hoping that the scenarios here will kind of take what Tobias just went through and more explain on how does it work in reality. Because the headless commerce and the commerce scaling, this is really something that you can leverage to fit most of your scenarios, I would say. I was also part of the previous webinar, part 1, where we were focusing solely on standard tools. Today we'll look at some other external tools that we can use to leverage the headless commerce. So I'm going to walk you through the first or the 2 scenarios that I've built here, and then a quick architectural overview, and then we're going to jump into what I hope is the fun stuff, the actual scenarios. But the first one today will be the customer creation. Customer creation, you can also do customer information, but we're going to look at how this is done through CSU, look at some different tools. We're going to create a new customer, we're going to find it, and we're going to use it in a POS or a POS transaction. Sounds simple, but I'll walk you through the steps and what is the prerequisites to get this working in any third-party tool. And the second scenario is a little bit more advanced, and this is where you can really find some good advantages in the later versions of the product, with pricing and order history being utilized in external applications to build like a My Page for any customer. But the pricing is specifically interesting for me. I'm going to walk you through the sales document changes that came, where it allows for you to do actual pricing requests in the form of a cart, where you can evaluate different mix and match scenarios, really leveraging off the pricing and promotions setup done in Dynamics without having to use the modern POS or cloud POS or an actual built-in application. Again, leveraging off what Tobias mentioned, the same experience and the same customer experience across all sales channels, single source of truth, basically. But before we jump into that, just a brief overview of the actual architecture and what are we looking at, which components are we using here. So as I mentioned last time, the first part of this webinar series, we were over here looking at the web storefront and the site builder, the asset management and the websites that you can deploy as components to your commerce platform. Both of these, or they all work towards the CSU, so they all utilize the headless commerce architecture, but everything is kind of pre-built for you. So you can extend, of course, but if you want to focus on standard, which we do today, no customizations, you rely on these to do the standard setup of an e-commerce website. And then, of course, here you have the modern pools and the store commerce architecture. But today we're going to look at what the CSU allows you to do outside of these applications, basically. All of these arrows are only half the truth because you can leverage a lot. We're going to look at Power Apps today. We're going to look at any other third-party applications that you can build and use the CSU to utilize headless commerce. So with that said, let's jump out of the presentation and jump into the fun stuff, which is, of course, Dynamics Finance and Operations here. As I mentioned, we're going to start with the customer scenario. And since we are now using, yes, I'm here, I speak too much. We are going to be using an application which is not MPOS. It's not already built in authentication-wise. So in order for us to actually talk to the CSU, to talk to the commerce core, we need to establish some form of trust. That's the technical part here, that you need to allow your applications to actually call the APIs, which is something you do. Everything revolves, of course, around Azure AD, Active Directory. So you need to create an application in Azure AD and you need to enable it to actually connect to your commerce core. And this is done within Dynamics in the commerce shared parameters. I'm not going to walk you through this step by step because it's already very well explained on Microsoft Learn, and you need to adhere to internal policies as well. So, but the point is that you can't just, it's not an open API. You can't just call it from wherever you are. You have to enable some level of trust and a context to be able to pass the API. And this is something we've done here in the demo context by enabling or creating an Azure application, which we've then granted access as a relying party into our CSU, the scale unit. So this is the initial setup. And once this is done, now it opens up a range of possibilities to use any application that is capable of calling an API. You can actually build pretty much anything you like that adheres to the commerce guidelines and rules. You can use Visual Studio to build an application that authenticates and gets product information, pricing queries, on-hand information, anything you like off the CSU. I like to use Postman. It's a tool that is used heavily for testing purposes to build API collections. We're going to start off with Postman today before we jump into the Power Platform and start using more graphical, more demo-friendly applications. But Postman is good because it allows you to test very, very easily, and it allows you to save these tests and reuse them over and over again. So to start off, we have our little token, what I just mentioned, the actual authentication that goes on here, where you need to get authorization to actually call these different APIs. There are a number of APIs available to us. These are very well described, I would say, on Microsoft Learn. You can also ask a developer to actually look at the code. Not all APIs in the commerce are available to you as a third-party application. There are different contexts, like you cannot open a shift from a POS operation from a third-party application. You have to have a device token and actually be store commerce, be modern POS or cloud POS. But there are a number of application APIs available which suit at least the demo needs here as customer-oriented, pricing-oriented, channel-oriented, and the calculate sales document, which we're going to look at shortly, which I think is very nice addition. I think it became available in version 26 or 25, I don't remember. But the first scenario here is to actually start to create a customer. And this is JSON. You can pass some required values here, and you can pass as many values as you like. But what we're doing here is, so just going to call it webinar test customer. We don't need a last name, or we can call it test. And since I've now got an authentication token, I'm allowed to call the CSU. So now we're calling the headless commerce API, and we're actually creating a customer within Dynamics F&O directly, which you can see here. So this is another good capability of the headless commerce, because it allows you to actually off-put some integration scenarios, which could be done using Dynamics F&O DMF. It can be done using OData, where there's an API limit coming. If you look at the APIs that are available to you in the CSU context, you have the possibility to offset some performance, offset some of the APIs, and allow applications to kind of bypass the OData or DMF integration patterns that we have on F&O side, and you can use the CSU for commerce scenarios. And as you see here, we get a lot of heavy lifting done. We have a party, the customer is created automatically with a number of standardized values, and the customer is also available to us directly here, the webinar test customer. So now that we have a customer, that kind of gives us the possibility to sell something to that customer, of course, as this is commerce, right? So the whole framework of Dynamics Commerce revolves around identified customers, because without an identified customer, you can't really know anything about it. You can't target it. You can't give it a discount. You can do anonymous customers, of course, and you can work with discounts that go for all. But in this case, we want to give our top customers, which of course this one is, a 50% discount. So I'm going to use something called an affiliation with the help of my colleague Victor here, who set it up. I'm just going to walk you through a very quick overview what this is. So I've now told Dynamics that this newly created customer of mine is our top customer, which is a real life scenario, of course. And affiliations, as well as price groups and pricing and promotions and discounts, these are all terms that are used in the pricing and promotion engine within commerce. So this is all backend now, which we're not doing this in the CSU, we're doing this in F&O. And we're setting up discounts, which you normally do as part of your daily operations. This is a really powerful framework where you can do any types of discounts that you wouldn't normally expect. You can do mix and match category-based discounts, or you can say specifically products, percentage amounts, thresholds. There's a whole range of different setups that you can use to apply to your promotion scenarios. The problem has been, at least from a technical integration perspective, has been to use these scenarios, use these promotions in other applications than MPOs. So as Tobias mentioned, the different architectural scenarios that you might have, if you still want to leverage off the pricing and promotion and you want to provide the same customer experience and the same pricing across all channels, it has become where it is a little bit more complicated when it comes to pricing, because you can provide the rule set, but there's no guarantee that every application calculates or has support for all the different variants of discounts that you have. So the top architectural approach here is always to have cart-based or synchronous approach, where you always ask, okay, what is the current price of this product? What is the current price of this product for this customer on this day? Or this product in combination with this product for this customer on this day. It quickly becomes very complicated to replicate in other applications, unless you can actually ask the single source of truth, which is, in this case, F&O. So what we've done here to illustrate this a little bit is that we've set up an Engage Super Deal, of course, which is an exclusive discount. It applies to one specific product, which is a reflective wristband. It's very good in Sweden. It's getting brighter, but it's been very dark now for quite a while. So it's always recommended to wear a reflective wristband when walking outside to avoid traffic incidents and be visible outside. This is something safety we want to promote, of course. So we added a 50% discount on this product. So that's the discount in itself. And in order for the discount to be applied, we also need to tell the system where or to who. And in this case, we have a price group called Engage Price Group, which is tied to our affiliation. So this is where you kind of link your discounts with your customers or your channels. So by tying my newly created customer to this affiliation, I'm telling the customer, or I'm telling the CSU or the FNO that they should receive a 50% discount on this product. So that was the first scenario, as well as some additional background information about how the pricing and promotion works. But it's important to understand, because the whole headless commerce engine, it gives you the possibility to expose your information to other channels. But for the person or the roles working with pricing and promotion, they don't know if this discount is applied or is exposed to MPOs or to a third-party application, and they shouldn't, because their role and the single source of truth still resides in the same place. So with that said, we have a customer. Now what we can do is we can use something called calculate sales document, which is another API where you pass cart lines. Previously, as I mentioned before, it has been complicated to use a third-party application to actually check mix and match promotions to see, okay, if I buy 3 of these, do I get a better price? If I buy 4 and I'm this customer, do I get a better price? That has been a tricky issue without actually connecting them all the way so that the cart resides within FNO rather than on the third-party system. Now, with using the calculate sales document, it's kind of like a quote. So you can pass in a document with a list of products and a customer, and getting the calculated price back as well as the calculated discounts. So if I pass this here, this is our product. We've set up an affiliation. It will, without creating any transactions, it's just calling the scale unit and the headless commerce engine and calculating back the price. You get back that the extended price, the original price is 30 here, and the extended price is 15 because we got the 50% discount. You can also see it actually down here. It tells you exactly which discounts were applied. So you get a lot of information using the headless commerce API, which you can decide what you want to do with, but you get exactly the discount that was applied to you, including the name of it. So you can build a number of scenarios here for quoting or building product information sites. If I go over to the standard part and I go to Cloud Posts, I might have to refresh here. Again, I talk too much. Yes. I don't have a hardware station in my demo context here, but if I look at my customer, we called it webinar something. Right? Yes, this one, webinar test customer test. This is the ones we just created. So if I add that one to my sale, and now I hope that my affiliation has been applied, we'll see. I can find my reflective wristband. Yes, as you see now, since I connected the affiliation, this is standard. So this is not something that you would expect not to work. And here you can clearly see that the discount is our Engage Super Deal. So I'm going to just complete this transaction here and pay. No receipt because I don't have a hardware station on my demo POS. So what I've done now is I've created a transaction, and this is done in the CSU initially because it's Cloud Posts. So the transaction is done on my customer that I just created, and the affiliation is applied as we configure. So this is Postman, where you can play around. You can do any number of tools. You can see what is returned back to you. And by using the Power Platform, it's just as easy, actually, but you don't have to use Postman. You can use Power Apps, and you can use Power Automate to kind of build, or very quickly at least, build proof of concept scenarios or try out how would this work, how would that work. So I've done for a previous webinar I did on visibility, I built another little POS application. I don't expect any UI prices here, but I really love Power Apps because it allows you a very short development time or little to no development. This is absolutely no lines of code. but it allows you to try out different scenarios. Let's say that you need a pricing query app, or you need to build a quick little customer order history application somewhere. Labels, I know, has been a historical problem at a lot of customers. How do we actually allow pricing labels to be printed, or digital signage to work? This is really scenarios where you can look into the headless commerce APIs to see if you can offset some of the performance and the integration patterns towards F&O. So what I built here is a quick little price checking tool, as well as an order history tool, which uses these APIs here in Postman. And I built two Power Automates or flows. One is called get price, the other is get order history. And this is not something that takes long to build if you know how to do it. It's pretty well documented in different communities and forums, and you can build this very, very quickly to try out your scenario. But just a quick walkthrough of the different steps. Quick being pretty quick. Just refresh this. Let's check the get order history. Here we go. So basically all the Power Automates and the flows are the same. The goal is to connect these to Power Apps. So you get some data from Power Apps, in this case, the customer record or the customer and the item. And then there's a lot of parameterization to set which CSU to connect to. And then you get the actual token, as I showed in the previous Postman example. And then you pass the message. A lot of the work done in Power Automate is just to get the data in a way so you can actually use it in Power Apps. If you use Visual Studio, for example, you can do what you want with the data that is returned. In this case, I respond back to Power Apps with the collection of what has this customer bought, and then I present it. So in my Power App, I just select my two Power Automates and I connect them to my different buttons here. And this was built yesterday, basically. So you can build or showcase or proof of concept different scenarios using headless commerce very easily. That's what we want to show with today's webinar. So if we try out our little customer that we just did and our product 0187, and the customer was, see if I remember or if I need to get it from here, 4174. I can first of all check the price. Again, using the calculate sales document, and we see that we get 15 discount 15. If I try this without calling a customer, or I try it with someone else, I will probably get 30, I hope. Yes, because the affiliation does not apply now. And I can also use this to check the order history from my customer. And this is the order I just placed, right? So if I go back and add my little webinar customer again, and I can just, because I love the wristband so much, I want one additional. And because the headless commerce engine goes directly towards the CSU, I should now see, yeah, exactly. So here's where you get actual real time and not near real time, because you're speaking towards the headless commerce engine. So you get the actual truth as it happens. You don't need to wait for exports, etc. So for these lightweight scenarios where you want to illustrate using a customer context or using an item context, you could bulk and like save the data, of course. But this is where you can really find scenarios to build a my page. Basically, if you have a third-party e-commerce site, you don't have a full-blown connection to headless commerce yet, but you want to avoid sending all the historical transactions and storing, or give them the possibility to see, okay, this customer bought this in the physical stores as well. You can really use the headless commerce engine to leverage those scenarios in an easy fashion, or at least showcase them in an easy fashion. And I think that was it from the demo scenarios. Happy to see that the test flows worked. And again, this is not something that is complicated to set up and to try out for different, because this and everything we've done for this webinar here has been done completely without extensions or any custom development at all. Only some Power Apps knowledge and some Power Platform knowledge and knowing how to use Postman. But I think it's a very short learning curve, I would say. So back to the presentation and the summary and Q&A. Tobias, do you have anything to
add? Yes, thanks a lot, Gustav. Happy to see that the demonstration worked out fine. And hopefully we have showcased that the barrier of entry in terms of leveraging these headless commerce capabilities is actually quite low. And also, if we continue to next slide here. So just a quick summary on the headless commerce engine here that hopefully you have seen here today, that it actually provides a number of architectural options for you in terms of how far into the Dynamics 365 commerce footprint are you ready to go. If you would like to leverage all the core components, well, that's one option, but you also have the possibility to stick with some of your legacy components and rather use the headless commerce engine to provide this single source of truth, as Gustav and we have tried to emphasize on here, which provides a lot of benefits and expose that data and logic across your various sales channels. And hopefully I've also seen that testing out and performing proof of concepts could actually be quite easy, where you could utilize Postman. You can build Power Automate and Power Apps to test out your hypothesis and perform these proof of concepts before you decide to move further into the commerce service, and also gain valuable feedback from your business users. So with this that said, I mean, this is the end of the presentation. So we've saved a few minutes for Q&A here. So we will monitor the chat also after the call, and it will be transitioned to the LinkedIn live event post, where we also will see if you come up with any additional questions after the session. We'll ensure to try to answer them as well. But otherwise, the Q&A session is open now, so feel free to ask questions. No questions so far. Perhaps it was a pretty comprehensive and
self-explaining. Yeah. No, but as Tobias said, the comments will be open for a while, and we will try to do our best to answer them even in the coming days. So feel free to post if anything pops up. And thank you so much for listening to us today.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and
thank you.
Have a nice day, and ensure to get back on the Engage page and follow us if possible, and we'll post additional comments and new updates related to Dynamics in general, but also commerce more specifically.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.